All right, girls and guys and gals and germs and that wonderful thing that God created called woman and the idiotic thing that God created called man. Yeah, I'm working on brownie points. So I wanted to shoot the Blitzkrieg legend. I'm on the 16 May turn, and the Germans were the last to go on 14 May, and they got the first turn on 16 May. And you know me, normally I'd wait till the end of the turn to shoot this, but the German half of this segment, because of the back-to-back segments, was extremely interesting. So I wanted to shoot this now. All right, so we're halfway through 16 May. All right. And I just want to drop on a couple developments. So you have surrender rules for the Dutch, the Belgians, and of course France. And you have the mauling rules for the Brits, which they haven't even really been attacked yet. They got one unit right here in the front that is probably going to get hit, but I'll probably also get them out of there. I will tell you this. The Belgians are in a deep pile of poo-poo because, having to keep headquarters where they can thaw supply, which if you watched my little live stream last night or whatever, you'd see where I was talking about the use of your supply and headquarters. It's a large task for the Germans. Well, I mean, you got a lot of maneuvering of supplies and headquarters you need to do, but there's plenty of them, so it shouldn't really be a problem. I think it's going to be interesting when I get in deep into France. Should I get deep into France? That'll be a challenge. The Allies, it's pretty easy if you can put dumps just in cities. Cities or villages along, you can move them along rail lines and drop them in there for these guys to draw from, and then just get the headquarters in the proper spots to throw this stuff forward on these roads. You got to be careful in the Ardennes because you don't have a lot of, what is it, east and west? Yeah, east and west major roads. It seems like a lot of them run north and south, which I guess if you look at the country with the coast being to the northwest and to the north, it makes kind of sense that way. So, no necessarily developments where the Brits and the French are setting up that secondary line from Antwerp out. But the Belgians are getting their freaking kind of getting their butts handed to them. They may not have to worry about surrender because they may not have no forces to put up any fight. I think I've got a couple replacements, or I may have used them already actually for the Belgians. I got to do some digging here. They're probably under one of these headquarters somewhere. But as the Germans, with the 4 or 3 mobile units I had over here, what do I get here? 4th Panzer, 3rd Panzer, and 5th Panzer. Well, you're not going to be able to see them, but there are quite a few of the Belgian headquarters in that stack right there. So if they're going to have to get some points if I want to have those reconstituted. They still got one on the map there. Man, I hate to say it, but I think that might be it. There might be one more hidden somewhere. Maybe back here under the supply or something. I have to do some digging on that too because I gotta get the Belgians out of it. They need to come back to this line along the dial, plain and simple. Yeah, I could have pushed the Brits forward, but I didn't like that idea off the bat. I wanted to have that secondary back here to start building up to defend France. I could have brought them up and then tried to strengthen with them along Antwerp and the dial here and then maybe move these forward. But I don't want to get the Brits mauled until they've had all their tea and crumpets for the campaign. All right, let's go over here. So still haven't dropped the rest of the other 2 units of the 22nd LL. Well, one's the headquarters unit. I probably need to put him on there. There they are. But guess what? They took Amsterdam. They drove that H-strength Dutch unit out of Amsterdam and they took it. So they have an airfield, which they can get supply to. They've now taken Amsterdam, which I think I got to reduce the port cap. I got to look at that because I think now that we own it, it's useless. So, and those are pretty good forces up there. Taking that airfield was a huge plus because there was only one combat unit in the area close enough to sort of not reaction, but to respond, in the area. And I couldn't pull them out of Amsterdam because I could just walk around him. So we now own Amsterdam, and we own one of the Rotterdam hexes. So by the rules, that's 9th Panzer, pretty much the sole high mobile unit in the area. I think I got 20th Motorized Infantry right here. He's fighting in the polder. So at the end of the game turn, so after the Allies play, now we start rolling for surrender. And I think once they surrender, they go one more turn active as not knowing they've surrendered, and then it's over for them. I got to read what you do for their complete surrender, what things you modify or change. Now, there is some additional rules that say if they have combat unit support within 5 hexes of Rosendahl, or Roosendahl, however you want to say it, French and or British, you start modifying the die roll in the favor of the Dutch for surrender. So I said, oh, okay, well, I got a whole bunch of units right here. I can do that. Okay, so you got to have like 20-some plus steps, or some 15 to 20-some steps in there just to get a -1 die roll on the surrender. So unless I just pull everything back, or I just move everything I possibly can to within 5 hexes, which I mean, I could potentially put, I don't know if I can get that many without compromising something else. So it may be bye-bye Dutch. All right, so with the Germans holding 1 hex, 2 hexes, 3 hexes, they're going to get a plus on the surrender die roll. And I don't know if it's 1 per hex or 1 per hex of each town. So it's either going to be like +2 or +3. All right, so unless for some off-the-wall reason the Dutch can take something back, which I don't see that happening. I really don't. I mean, it'd have to be an awful lucky surprise die roll, and I can't see that because both of those, the German units are in, well, the ones that are in the city, that's major city, and that is considered to be extremely close on the combat table. And of course you can see it, that's the top one. All right, so there's that development. So I didn't really need to do a whole lot of pushing down here and waste supply and waste potential combat strength. I did drive into here and get behind all this stuff and take some supply and open up this railway here. I got to mark these forts. Actually, haven't touched that one right there, but we took out that one so that we could move that way. Exploit, got to get that. Oh, I got one more tactile I got to do. I'll do that right here, which that'll eliminate that Belgian headquarters. Pretty sure, because they're on their mobile side, their move side. That means their AR is 0, and I think their strengths, it's either 1 or 2. And that is a whole freaking Panzer division sitting right there. So I forgot to do one. All right, so let's go to the, and you can see that the Belgians are starting to get entrapped. You know, they don't have the movement, and of course you're trying to stall the Germans as best you can. But once there's a whole, you got to love this game because, you know, most games you worry about breaking out behind something and then getting cut off. Well, in this game here, if you take supply or you have supply go along with you, you know, if you have enough, they can be surrounded for quite some time. So, because they can, you know, if you can't trace supply back to the sources, you can eat off the map. And if you have supply in the hex, maybe you won't have enough to do no attacking, but you can stay in an not out of supply state by having supply points there where you can eat off the map. So I think that lends very good credence to the supply rules of this game, and to the fact that now your mobile forces can penetrate deep as long as they have supply. And like I said, you can take supply from the Allies. One of the big things is, like I think on this last just half turn, I think the Germans captured probably 3 or 4 points in supply trucks, maybe 5 from the Allies, and I'll guarantee you they captured 6 total supply points. So for 24T of supply, which came in and you can immediately use the supply, and you can immediately move the trucks, put the trucks into movement, and just like they were your own. And matter of fact, I don't have any more 1 or 2 strength German supply transport points, the trucks. If I capture any more of the Allies, I don't have any trucks to replace them with. I'm gonna have to start merging some trucks together. I think I already did that here earlier. I took 2 1s and I merged them into a 2. And of course, if you want to build an extender anywhere, which I don't have to worry about that yet, then you gotta have 5 of them together and then you merge it, and then you flip it over to an extender side. Anyhow, we don't need to worry about that. Let's drop this thing right here. Let's see if I can get in here. We're going to see this without messing everything up. So here's the big to-dos. Turn the camera down without dropping it on the game and messing up all these wonderful counters. All right. Pull it back just a little bit. So there you have it. That is the whole. So let's get in here and talk about this. All right, so you remember at the end of the last turn, the 14th, we got across. It was in a small area, like in here. And then the Germans got the initiative on the 16th, and I rolled 20 supply points, which you can't see it, but just right down here below the camera, I dropped in 3 4s, or 2 4s and a 3. So I had 8, 9, 10, 11, and I think I moved in like 2 or 3 points. Because I had all these mechanized or mobile units that I needed to use, the primary objective for this turn was this gap. Okay? I need to get a rail line across this, and you'll see there's nothing here. I'd have to go back down here to take one, or go over to this way to get one, which I imagine if I collapse behind the MERS here, one of those will open up. But we're considered here, we're in France in here. So I'm already into France. So using headquarters and potentially extenders might start to happen. I almost boo-booed before I started this and didn't get a headquarters up, but I did manage to get one of the big headquarters. He's up in here underneath this supply point. He's on his move side, so he's got a 7 throw range. So everybody's covered. Plus, this stack here, French 2nd Armored, completely wiped off the map. They are gone. Totaled. 1st Armor, what do we got? 1st Armor is down to about 3 units. 3rd Armor, you see I'm using their little markers. It's because the stacks were getting unruly. 3rd Armor is down to, looks like 3 combat units and an artillery piece. Yeah. So there goes the potency. There goes French Armor. I got to look at reinforcements. I see they have a couple more parent units over there. I am kind of scattered out. They're going to come on the board. The Germans really don't have much more in the way of reinforcements. And like I say, using your packs and your equipment replacements, pretty much with the Germans, it'll go to the mobile units. Well, and you can't do too much of that because you don't draw that many of the equipment ones. And you need the equipment ones for these mechanized and motorized units. All right, so 6 Panzers driven out to here. They are quite a few miles into France, and they picked up 2 total supply points. All right. I think I may have had a truck too that dropped one, but they captured. They got a good roll. They got like a 75% roll on this. I think there might have been like a 4 supply pointer in there. 8th, 2nd, and 2nd motorized. I don't know how the French are going to react to this. I really don't. There's definitely going to be some shifting going on. 1st Panzer sitting on the river. 10th Panzer tried to take this fortress hex, and they were not successful. Well, they didn't lose anything, but they weren't successful. 29th motorized, of course, they took out a headquarters. You got some more supply there. 1st Panzer's across. There's a big infantry unit here, and there's more units coming up from behind here. I still got 7th Panzer still down this way. They were trying to get their units back together, and then they'll probably cross. I don't think I have the SS, whatever the T unit is. They're on the way. And then, of course, Kleist. Kleist is down here in the woods playing around with some small French units. He's over here. Look at that big old infantry unit there. I got to see if there's a breakdown for him. That's a massive, a 12 strength motorized infantry unit. My God, the damage they can do on their move side. All right, so there's your development right there. Haven't really threatened any of the ports back there. The French are going to get their turn now. The Allies will get their turn now. They'll roll for their supply. And they usually don't have supply issues, although I got to admit, once these headquarters went down in here, I think I took 3 battles one is the French, 2 is the Belgians. Just had small units in there that didn't matter if I supplied them or not. They were going to get their butts handed to them. So I turned down the supply and cut their strength in half and just, hopefully got a dice roll that was enough to either slow the Germans or maybe even force a loss on them. But I think only one of them worked out, and it was one of those optionals. So I took an optional for the Germans, and then the French just held their position. All right, so that's the development right now. That hole, we're going to see how the French respond to this hole now over here. And I don't know, see if they can put the Germans in check. I don't see that happening, because those mobile units, boy, you flip them over, and unless the French have some good sized stacks, you get up adjacent to one of them with maybe a recon unit or something, and you go in there and you hip shoot them to reduce them, and then you just take that stack of that pan, even on their mobile side, their move side, you're going to get probably, I'd say at the least is like a 2-to-1, but then you've got that AR rating of 5, where most of the French units are 3 and 2. And shoot, if you DG one of them with a hip shoot, and they were a 2 AR, now they're 1, so you're getting a +4 on your surprise die roll. And I'm gonna tell you, that surprise, use overrun whenever you can. I only stay away from the overruns as if I have supply in the hex with me, and I'm out in front, where that if I leave that supply alone, it could become vulnerable. That might be the only case where I don't overrun. But for the most part, that's all these units over here did. I think the only one that didn't overrun were these 2 exploit attacks. After the exploitation, I didn't do overrun here, because 29th Motorized was sitting on about, 2 supply points. All right, so there's your development. That was the German half of the 16th of May turn. And there's somebody else, T-Faust, is playing it too. He's playing without Holland, but he's playing, I think he was able to cross the Meuse. I want to say, if you look in the comments, I think he did it on the second turn. He was able to get across. And I think I'm waiting for his follow-up report to see how he's progressed with that. All right, so let's get this thing up. If you got any questions or want to ask me any questions, I'm starting to get, in my brain, I'm getting much more efficient with the system. And I'm going to say it again. I'll probably say it every video I shoot. Slow can be painful, but I think it's very, very realistic to me. It makes you really, really think, focus on, decide where you want to put your focus on the attack, and even on the defense, really, and try to get the necessary supplies, and always think, if you think that, hey, this operation, I'm going to need 6 supply points, plan for 8, because, you get some exploits or stuff like that. You never know. And hey, and if you don't use it, and you use the 6 that you guessed at, then you guess what? You got 2 supply points sitting there for the next phase. Makes it easier for you to get supply. Germans, use the hell out of your air. I have been burning up pretty much 95% of my air power on every turn. I would say that I have knocked out 60% of the Allied air power. I want those fighters out of the way. Their bombers aren't nearly as strong as these Junkers, as the Stukas are. So I'm burning them up almost every turn. I think I didn't use these guys because I didn't need to, but they've got somewhat of a patrol zone coverage on the area. So if the Allied fighters, whatever's left, try to come into this area, these guys here can respond. And then you see everywhere else on the map, there's a couple fighters right here that didn't get used. But you see all these other airfields. I used every stinking one of them. I think I flew some up into here. Yeah, and I flew a fighter up into here. Up into that hex there. All right, I'm going to do that last exploit attack. I'm going to get this thing posted up so y'all can see what's going on. And then, of course, I'll probably shoot again after the Allied turn so you can see what I had to do for the Allies. All right, hope y'all are enjoying this stuff here. We'll talk to you shortly.